Hey everybody, it's Stephanie. So I know that lately everybody has been quarantined inside their homes, probably losing their minds. I have just been watching YouTube videos, trying to get homework done. I only have one class, so I get my homework done super fast, and that just leaves me with time to not do a whole lot. I know that a lot of people have been talking about giving their hair and their skin and everything a break from makeup and styling their hair and all of that. But for some reason, I have just been wanting to do my makeup so bad. Like, I don't even, more than I ever want to do my makeup. And with my hair, I just cannot be bothered to do my hair half the time anyways. But I decided to get ready today. So yeah, today I wanted to talk about self-acceptance. It's one thing that I still struggle with a lot. I've talked about it on my blog before, and I've talked about it like on Instagram, stuff like that. As you all know, I struggled with an eating disorder for quite some time. The habits, they started as far as I could remember. Like, I think it got pretty bad in middle school. I think middle school was when it got pretty bad. Throughout elementary school, I compared myself to other girls. I had a best friend in elementary school, and she would just put me down all the time because I wasn't as skinny as her or I didn't look like her. And I was never like heavy as a kid, but I was always like a little bit bigger than some of the kids. And she was horrible about it, and it just kind of stuck with me all throughout life. There's comments that I've heard, like that I'm too big, or that those clothes don't fit you right, or whatever, stuff like that. And I feel like a majority of girls hear that stuff, and it's not okay. It's not okay for kids. Like, people say kids are just being kids, but no, that's not okay for other kids to tell you that. It's not okay for anybody to tell you, oh, hey, those jeans look tight on you, or maybe you should wear, some bigger clothes, or, stuff like that, or you look a little heavy today. That stuff is not okay. It's not okay to say to others. It's not okay to, for others to say it to you and think that they're just being funny. It's something that sticks with women. And yeah, I might just be sensitive, but I really do think that stuff like that, and hearing those things throughout your life, it gets to you, and it gets to you in ways that it might not affect you at the time, but the next time you put those jeans on, you think, oh my gosh, I look horrible in these, like these fit too tight, or you start to look at yourself different in the mirror every time these things are told to you. It's just something that slowly eats away at you, and it can take effect on you later on in life. And I know a lot of women who they push it down, and they say, oh, people have told me that, but I don't care. I know that I'm better. I know that I look better than that, or I'm better than that, to listen to them. And good for them. I'm so happy for them. But I have seen the way that it really does affect people throughout their lives. It creates anger, it creates hatred towards others or themselves, and stuff like that. I've seen it in every woman that I have known that has been told that before. So I think number one is just watching what you say to others. And if you know somebody who is telling people, oh, hey, those clothes look a little tight on you, or you look a little bloated today or something, just talk with them. Tell them to stop. And I know that it's not easy, and sometimes it's hard being that person that's that, that peacemaker, or you feel like you're ruining the fun or whatever. But no, you're protecting the people that you love, and you're protecting the way that they feel about themselves. And if you are that person that that body shames in a way, and I hate using that word so freely, but body shaming isn't always telling somebody that they look fat straight to their face, or being so straight up with those exact terms and stuff. Body shaming could be making those subtle comments and those indirect comments towards people. Like I said, they just sit on them. They think about them every time they put on those pair of jeans, every time they want to get dressed up, wear something a little bit tighter or whatever. They look at themselves different in the mirror. So that's not okay to tell people that they look bigger, they look bloated, whatever. So anyways, back to the story. Whenever I got into middle school, I remember my mom posted, it was the military, she posted the military diet up on our fridge, and she tried it for a few days. Or it was this big diet, and it was like crackers and cottage cheese and 1 egg and a piece of toast and all of that stuff. And it was for mainly for diabetic patients who had to drop quite a bit of weight before surgeries, or for anybody who had to drop a lot of weight in a short amount of time. And I remember at one point she had tried it, and I wanted to try it with her. And I was very, very young at the time. Like I said, I was in middle school. And I remember kind of sticking to that, but I would start eating one last cracker, or I would take the toast out and just eat an egg for breakfast. And I started getting really bad into that, to where it got to the point where I remember I went 4 days without eating, and I felt extremely sick. And one of my good friends at the time, she knew that something was off, but I think we were a little too young for her to understand exactly what was going on, for me to even understand what was going on. I just saw it as a way of people starving themselves as a way to lose weight. And so I would do that, and then I would end up, binging on whatever. And then I realized that it was making me really sick, so I kind of stopped. And this was at the point in time where I wasn't, as a kid, I didn't have Facebook until I was a little older. I didn't have Instagram, all of that. So I never saw the side of social media that we see all the time now, and that kids are so exposed to right now, with the fitness industry being as huge as it is right now. But I did see those small things that, in magazines and stuff that I would see, like catch online or whatever, about those diets and people just starving themselves to feel skinny. And that was always what I wanted, was to feel skinny. And so later on, fast forward, I got into high school. It was my sophomore year when I got into cheerleading, and I was super active. And I remember, I would not eat all day, and then I would go home and binge on horrible foods at night. And I realized that it started, not only did it really mess with my performance being an athlete, it was messing with my mental health a lot. And this is in high school. Girls make comments to each other. There's those girls that are super thin, super popular, whatever. And I started comparing myself a lot. So I got into weightlifting a lot, especially my junior year, I think it was. And I sort of got into meal prepping, and it wasn't these super clean meals or anything, but I actually ate breakfast, I had lunch, and then I would have a decent dinner and stuff. So it was my senior year, I think. I remember I worked at a gym, and I started there my senior year, and that was when I really got into like weight training, and I started getting into fitness and everything. And then all of a sudden, once I graduated high school, I just completely stopped going to the gym. I stopped moving. I stopped doing anything that was good for my body. I would probably get in like 2,000 steps in a day. Like, it was ridiculous. And I worked at the time, I started working at a dental office. And so I was sitting at the front, not really moving a whole lot. So with that, and not really working out very much or at all, and then the doctors would bring in Blake's burritos every morning or donuts, and so I ate horrible, and I put on the weight very quickly. So that was when I started noticing that I was not happy with my body at all. So at that point, I noticed that I was not happy with myself. I was not happy with where I was going. At the time, I went through a really bad breakup. I dropped out of college, and I quit my job to go back to working at the gymnastics facility. And this all happened within, I want to say, like 2 weeks. So whenever I went back to the gymnastics facility, I realized how out of shape I was. And that brought me down so much. And I felt horrible about myself. And then I started doing home workouts. And I remember the girl that I was working with at the gym, we decided to go on a 30-day challenge. So we wrote out what we could eat and what we couldn't eat. And we cut out almost everything that we were eating at the time. And I would literally bring in a lunch bag just full of random snacks, like chips and those little, like, what are they called? The little sandwich things. And they're like little peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but they're circles. I can't think what they are. But I would bring like just junk food. And I would bring that in all the time and just eat whatever throughout the day. So we completely cut all those things out. It was down to pretty much a full paleo diet. And that's kind of what I based it off of. So about halfway through the challenge, or like 3 weeks in, my friend decided that she didn't want to do it anymore. She caught herself binging, and she just didn't like where it was headed. For me, I wanted to keep going. And at this point, it was to the point where I would only eat half a serving of fruit because I thought, too many carbs or whatever. And it just got to the point where I would literally restrict myself so much that I would dream about what I was going to eat the next day. I like nonstop thinking of it. I was having mental breakdowns every single day because I could not stop thinking of food. And this went on for about 3 or 4 months. And I remember one day we went to a gas station and I grabbed, I don't remember what it was, and I looked at the macros on the back, and right away I put it down. And my friend looked at me and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, it has too many, whatever." And she was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" She was not mad at me, but I could tell that she was concerned and she was frustrated in a way. So during this time, I would go home at night after work. I got off of work super late, and I would go home, and usually my family was going to sleep at this time, and I would just start binging on everything that I could find. And this would be Pop-Tarts or those like treats like the Twinkies and stuff like that, because my dad, he loved all of those and he'd keep them in the house. And anything that I could find, I would just eat it until my stomach was so full that it felt like it was gonna explode. And I remember laying in bed so many times crying and just feeling so sick and hating myself because I couldn't even breathe because of how full I was. And I knew what I had done. And I couldn't control myself, and I was so mad at myself because I could not, I didn't have that self-discipline. And I remember looking up ways to purge all the time, and I would always try to throw up. And for me, I could not, I could not make myself throw up ever. And I tried for a long time. And so my mom one day, so I didn't know this, but my parents would hear me get up and they would hear me go through the kitchen. And since I did this so much when I was younger, my mom thought, since I was more active, I was probably just getting a few snacks. Until she started to see the amount of food that I was eating. She started to hear me in the bathroom trying to make myself purge, and she'd hear me work out for hours at night. And she noticed. She knew that something wasn't right. And it was around the same time that her and my friend came to me, and they were both like, okay, something's not right. Maybe you should seek help for it. I remember being so angry, and I was mad at myself because I couldn't have self-control. I was mad at myself because I knew what I was doing was not right. I was mad at them for interfering in a way. I was just angry. I was so mad, and I didn't know what to do. So I remember I went to my doctor, and I've talked about this briefly in a few blogs, but I went from, I finally had found a nutritionist. I was on a wait list to see a therapist. I had 2 sessions with my nutritionist, and she moved. I called back to find another one. They had told me that there weren't any in this area who specialized in my type of eating disorder. And I was not getting anywhere with therapy. I was seeing a counselor at the time, and she was, she just out of college, and all she would talk about was herself, her experience during college. And I remember leaving, and I would be so hurt and so mad because I felt like I was not getting anywhere but just backtracking. And I finally started getting into self-help books, watching people on YouTube and all of that. And I've been doing that ever since. And there has been times that I've seen therapists, or I've tried brain spotting, stuff like that, anything to get actual professional help. And these things that I have done have helped me a lot, and they taught me habits that I still follow through with on a day-to-day basis. Without food. So whenever I started getting into all the self-help books and all of this, I started to really find answers. And I remember I would literally stay up all the time, an hour, up until 3 or 4 in the morning, just reading things. And in a way, it has kind of been a little self-sabotaging, some stuff that I read, because I wouldn't just go and read on, all these little health things or whatever. I would actually go and read studies and things from, things that colleges put out, and all of these big studies. I would buy studies just to read them, to help help me understand what was going on in my brain. And it was finally, I went to see a nurse practitioner to get some blood work done, because that is when I started having all of the physical problems with my body. And so I went to go get my blood work done, and the first appointment that I had with her, I stayed there for 2 hours and we talked forever. And I remember her looking at me and telling me, "You have a OCD." And to me, I remember feeling like it's just something that, you'd be like, "I have OCD, like what?" But I remember crying and just thinking, like, I found answers. I finally have found somebody that told me what is wrong with me so I can fix myself. And I know that this was not the best mindset to have at the time, but this is what I was thinking at the time. So I started looking into OCD and how to manage these, manage the symptoms and manage what was going on. And a lot of the things that I found did help. And I learned a lot of habit change techniques and stuff to help get me through those times where I wanted to binge. At the time, I had moved out of my parents' house into a whole different environment. And I feel like that different environment helped me probably more than anything with the binging. It was literally since I had moved out of that environment, I had not had a big binge on those horrible foods. And those foods were available to me at the time, but I don't know. It was just that big change of environment. And then also learning all of these habit changes and all these different things, they helped me cope. And also the job that I was working at the time, it was a counseling service, and I would go and talk to, like, if the counselor or the therapist had a no-show, I would go and talk to them. Or if I was just having a really bad day, I remember, if they didn't have anybody, or if, like I said, if they had a no-show or something, they were so quick to pull me in and talk to me and do whatever they could to help. And I'm more than thankful to have them in my life and to be able to have that experience that I had working with them. But it took a lot of self-empowerment. It took a lot of knowledge as to what was going on with my brain, what was going on with my body. I did a lot of digging into what could have triggered me and what was triggering me at the time, all of these things. And I know that this is a lot to, throw at somebody who could be struggling right now with an eating disorder. But the biggest one for me was self-acceptance. I would go on Facebook or Instagram, and I cannot say that I don't do this anymore, because I catch myself doing this to this day, especially on Instagram. And I will look at the macros that somebody's eating, I look at how they look, and I compare myself. And I will tell myself that, oh, they're eating, 2,500 calories a day, so can I, I'll be fine. They look really good, I'll be fine too. But I have to also remind myself that I don't know how active they are. Our bodies are completely different. Their body can run completely different than mine. They can, there are just so many different things that go into this. And I had to learn that I'm a different person. I'm so different than anybody else. Nobody's like me. Nobody's like you. And we cannot follow what other people are doing, because sometimes it just won't work for us. And so, sorry, I'm just really uncomfortable right now. Oh my God. But most of the time, what other people are doing is not what our bodies are made for. They're not going to benefit our bodies in the same way that they benefit theirs. And that is, you know, in terms of what macros they're eating. Those macros aren't going to fit our needs. Those macros aren't going to fit your activity level. It's just so, everybody is so different, and you have to learn that you were created a certain way. And for me, I am a big Christian, and that is one of the biggest things that has gotten me through all of this. Was whenever I'd feel anxious or anything, I'd pray. I would pray like my life depended on it, because it did. If I would have just told people what I was going through, I could have gotten help so much sooner. It could have alleviated a lot of what I was feeling. And if I were to just turn to God sooner, I would have felt that peace a lot sooner. And I cannot explain to you how much of a change it was when I started reading my Bible and going to my Bible, or just meditating on, you know, God's word, instead of going through with the binge or just laying in bed and feeling depressed. I wish I would have done that a lot sooner. But, you know, I would speak God's word, or I would speak these affirmations to myself. You know, I am empowered. I do have power, and food does not control me. I would speak those to myself, and I would meditate on those things, and I would tell myself I am enough. I know that I'm enough, and I'm comfortable with my body. I can trust my body. I do not need all of this food to make myself feel loved. And I'm worth so much more than that. And it was speaking those truths to myself, and I say truths because they are true. And it is so true. And I wish I would have told myself these things sooner. But just practicing self-love and self-acceptance, it completely changed my mindset. And I don't want to undermine those that are dealing with eating disorders and say that will completely cure you. But that is your next step towards recovery. I know that there are a lot of you out there who are scared. You feel stuck. You feel hopeless. But I promise that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you will make it. Everything will be okay. And I can promise you that. Food has no control over you. Whatever vice you have has no control over you. You will get through this, and I promise that you are worth it. So I hope all of you took something from this video today. I know it was super long and it was kind of all over the place, but that was my experience for, you know, a majority of it with an eating disorder, dealing with disordered eating patterns, all of that. I'm still every day, it's an everyday battle working through this, getting through this, but it's something that I know that I will get through, and it's something that I know that you will get through as well. So I hope that this video helped you guys. This is not intended to prescribe you with anything. This is not intended to diagnose you. You have healthcare providers for a reason, and if you do have symptoms of disordered eating patterns, please see your primary care provider, see any medical health professional that you can. I'm just here to help keep you guys positive, to give you guys tips, to create habit change, and to help you get through this recovery process and let you know that you're not alone. So if you have any coaching inquiries or anything, please reach out to me. I'm still searching for clients at the time. If you guys are interested or know anybody, just let me know. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.